It's my pleasure now to introduce Alex Slaten from Quantum. Alex is a longtime DCS member from even before you were with Quantum. You're now the Regional Sales Manager for Media Solutions Group at Quantum, and he has decades of integration and workflow specialty advisory and that sort of thing. And he's going to tell us, give us an update on Quantum.
Thank you very much, James. All right, I'm gonna have to struggle with the glasses back and forth around this one. We'll see how it works out. So basically, Quantum has been around since the 1980s, 1980 exactly. Originally, they did disc manufacturing. You may have bought Quantum discs back in the day. Currently, the flagship of our product line is StoreNext, though. The software was originally created as a project for the Department of Defense, and it was designed to bring down large media files from satellite imagery and combine it with surveillance and other data and get it out to our troops in the field so they can make real-time tactical decisions. It just so happens that ability to move those large files quickly in mission-critical environments works out really well for media and entertainment. So StoreNext has become a staple in the media and entertainment industry for doing just that. If you've ever used Apple's Xsan, that is an OEM version of StoreNext, and it remains our Mac client to this day. So if you have Yosemite or newer operating system, StoreNext for Mac is included in that and can be used in a StoreNext environment, and you don't have to pay for that license because Apple gives it to you for free.
We also have StoreNext Storage Manager software, which is basically it works within a StoreNext environment to seamlessly move your data across multiple hardware devices based on policies that you set up. I mean, these could be something like if somebody hasn't touched this file in 3 months, I want you to move it over to a NAS device. If nobody's touched it after 6 months, we want to send a copy to tape, a copy to the cloud. We can make 4 separate copies of a file within the StoreNext file system and distribute them wherever you need the data to go. And all of this can happen based on these policies that are preset so that you don't have to involve an IT professional to find out where your media has been moved within a StoreNext environment. So basically the hardware that we offer, we have all flash arrays, we have hybrid arrays. Our hybrid arrays actually have a really nice sweet spot in that we can give a client about 90% of the storage of or performance of an all flash array with about only 30% of the budget. So that's a pretty compelling argument in most of those situations, and we do that by leveraging our software management. Every 5 seconds we query the storage, and the hot files get moved up to the SSD storage when they're needed, as opposed to the next day or hours later, like a lot of our competitors do. We offer RAID arrays as well with SAS 10K, 15K drives. We offer NAS appliances as well, 7200 RPM type drives. We also have object storage. Our latest product is object storage. As I mentioned before, we're still a leader in the LTO library market. And we also have a new product called FlexStore, which allows you to communicate with existing AWS and Azure accounts, because most clients these days have some form of account or another with one of those, and we can interface directly with those, so they don't need a separate piece of software to manage the data movement out to the cloud, which works out really well for a lot of people. And we also have a lot of technology partners that can communicate with our devices through APIs. Some of them are listed here in the bottom: Aspera, CatDV. A lot of the major asset management solutions are able to make calls within our system gracefully using an API call to StoreNext Storage Manager. So in a StoreNext environment, across all of those hardware devices that are mentioned, from ingest all the way out through a tape, object, in the cloud, we can present one drive letter, which makes us pretty unique in the industry. So your end user can drop a file onto the storage, and then based on the policies I mentioned earlier, the data might get moved, but the path still remains the same for your end user. They can go back and find their file in the familiar place where they left it, and without involving an IT professional, call it back, whether it's all the way out into the cloud or tape or something like that. It'll get back to them quicker, obviously, if it's on disk. But if it's out far, they can still make that call without involving an IT professional, and it just simplifies everything. People generally like that ease of use. So we've become an industry standard, ourselves within the storage industry as far as StoreNext goes. 4K is obviously becoming the fast standard as far as production goes. So at this point, I think a lot of people in the DCS group are already shooting 4K. Some people, down res, down to HD. Sometimes projects are done in 4K. But it's obviously a standard that's coming on strong and fast. I think it's actually even expanding faster than HD originally did. So it's certainly on everybody's mind, what are the best ways to move 4K media throughout a 4K workflow. So just to revisit what it used to take, back in 2004, when they were doing Spider-Man 2, eFilm took 732 drives spread across 4 racks, and they were getting about 800 megs a second to bring that one in 4K. Now, fast forward to 2016, we can do 12 gigs a second in just a half rack with 120 drives with our Excelis product. So that's certainly a lot of progress that's been made in 4K workflows, and our Excelis product is positioned really well to address these workflows because it can present the same file in both SAN and NAS, depending on how you need to connect your end users and what kind of throughput they need. So that really helps as well. So all the things that make up the really nice picture in a 4K environment, spatial resolution, temporal resolution, these things are all obviously contributing to bandwidth needs and file sizes. Wide color gamut doesn't really directly do it, but it might increase your bit depth, and obviously that's going to add to the file sizes. And if you're doing things like Dolby Atmos, obviously all of these things contribute to higher bandwidth needs and faster drives. All right, so here's basically just a raster chart here of all the different resolutions moving up from HD all the way through 8K. So we have products, obviously currently just our base entry-level StoreNext Pro Foundation product, a 48 terabyte drive, is going to work well in an HD environment, but it's only going to give you a stream of 2K uncompressed if you need it. If you're starting to move up the chain and working with some 4K files, you're going to probably want to move up to an Excelis with QXS storage. A 72 terabyte configuration will give you one stream of 4K uncompressed. And that's usually good, for basic 4K productions. We are starting to get a lot of people moving up and working in 6K and 8K. We're getting this demand it's starting to come up on us pretty frequently. So in that environment, you might get by with some 6K workflow in that environment. But if you're working in 8K, you're definitely going to want to add some QXS storage, move up to a faster platform, maybe one of our 100 terabyte configurations, and that's going to give you the 12 gigabytes a second that you're going to need for an 8K uncompressed streamed. So we do have solutions that address whatever your needs would be. So Excelis is our main product for this. It's basically consists of 2 workflow directors or metadata controllers, and then a storage chassis that holds your metadata, and it's dedicated metadata, and that can be flash or disk. We usually like to use flash to keep things moving quickly in the system. And then your user data is stored on a variety of different QXS arrays. So there's a lot of things within the StoreNext file system that give speed to the solution and allow it to work really well in media environments. I mean, I could spend a lot of time on each of these, but suffice it to say that the system is really dialed in for media workflows. And then we can also really go deep within the StoreNext configurations and configure them a variety of different ways depending on what your needs are, whether you need high IOPS or whether you need just large file playback. So it's a very, very deep and finely tunable system. So basically, if you're building a shared storage solution, I mean, you want to get as much speed as you can, especially in a 4K environment, and you want to give the greatest connectivity and accessibility to your work group. So in an Excel system, generally we like to lead with fiber channel connections. We can connect to Linux, Mac, or PC clients, and that's going to give your fastest connection. But it's also going to take fiber channel cabling throughout your facility and fiber channel host adapters. And we find in many cases a client can get by with our distributed LAN client, which is unique to a Quantum StoreNext environment. This involves 2 Ethernet cables, but it still follows the same type of setup as a fiber channel connection, in that one of those cables is carrying your metadata exclusively and the other is carrying your media. And that allows you to realize the theoretical capacity of an Ethernet cable much better than a standard NAS connection. As most of you know, in like a 1 gig NAS connection, if you're getting 230 megs or something, you're doing pretty good. This gets you much closer to the theoretical bandwidth that's available with an Ethernet cable. And we also have traditional NAS clients. You can connect through a NAS gateway. And as I mentioned before, both your SAN clients on block level and your NAS clients on file level can be accessing the same files when within the same system, so you're not having to copy things over to a NAS for somebody to preview a file or have a look at what's being done in the work group. So where do we fit in the workflow? Basically everywhere from acquisition all the way out to deep archive. As I mentioned before, you can set policies in StoreNext Storage Manager that facilitate the movement of data throughout a Quantum ecosystem. And in this case, your first media you bring in, if it's a DPX sequence, when you drop it on the storage, you could have set up a policy that says every time I sense a DPX sequence, I know that I need to instantly make an LTO copy of it and send an LTO copy to the cloud, as well as moving those files up to my fastest storage so that my work group can start working on them. Obviously, our disk-based storage is the core of most work groups, so we've got disk-based storage as well, and then we can fine-tune volumes to address animation environments if need be, or editorial if the needs are different. And we can also then do backup and or archive out to tape devices. As I mentioned before, we have our Flex Store, which extends the StoreNext environment out to the cloud, so that when you look for a file in StoreNext, if it's been sent out to the cloud, you can still find it where you originally put it, which is not the case in most media environments. Currently, you've got to use a separate piece of software, and only that software is aware what is out into the cloud. And usually you've got like an internal IT person helping facilitate its retrieval from the cloud. So basically, StoreNext is a data management platform. So we manage everything that you need from ingest all the way out to deep archive. And we can do it in both NAS and SAN environments. So both type of connections can be accessing the same file. We scale really well and seamlessly without interrupting things within your facility and workflow. And we can go tape, cloud, or personal cloud with our object storage. So we make a very good fit for media rich environments, especially really demanding ones like 4K and 8K environments. So either way, if you've got any questions, feel free to contact me. It's Alex Slaten. My number is 818-339-8525. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got questions or are interested in quantum solutions. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Alex. Great presentation.